Hey everyone! We are working to hit 1,000 subscribers and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy the content and it is your first time here, please hit that subscribe button right now as we proceed. Hold on to your seats, Blue Jays fans, because we're about to talk about a player who just might be the answer to one of Toronto's biggest problems this season, and I guarantee most of you haven't been thinking about him at all. While everyone's been obsessing over the starting rotation and whether the offense can produce, there's a massive elephant in the room that the front office hasn't addressed. The bullpen situation is an absolute disaster waiting to happen. But what if I told you there's a former top prospect, someone who was once considered untouchable, who could swoop in and save the day? This story has everything: injuries, redemption, muscle drama, and the potential for an absolute game-changing impact. Buckle up because this is going to blow your mind. Let's start with the problem, and trust me, it's a big one. The Toronto Blue Jays bullpen is painfully thin when it comes to left-handed pitching options. Like, embarrassingly thin. We're talking about a bullpen that's essentially relying on two lefties, Eric Swanson, who's more of a Swiss Army knife utility pitcher expected to spot start and handle long relief duties, and Brandon Little, who is literally the only dedicated left-handed reliever they have right now. One guy. No. A single left-handed specialist in the entire bullpen setup. And here's the really scary part: Brandon Little was absolutely dominant in the first half of 2025. He was shutting down lefties, getting crucial outs, living up to all the hype. But then the second half happened, and it was like watching a car crash in slow motion. Opposing hitters figured him out. The book got out on his approach, batters started laying off his junk pitches, and suddenly he was walking everyone like he was handing out free passes at an amusement park. When you're a two-pitch pitcher getting thrown out there every other day, facing all the tough lefties in high-leverage situations, eventually the league catches up to you. And boy, did they ever catch up to Brandon Little. So the Blue Jays are sitting here with a massive vulnerability. Every single contending team is going to load up their lineup with right-handed mashers when they face Toronto, knowing full well that the bullpen can't match up effectively. It's a glaring weakness, the kind of thing that gets exposed in October when every at-bat matters and managers are playing chess with their bullpen pieces. This was supposed to be addressed in the off-season. Fans were begging for another left-handed arm, maybe even a left-handed closer who could lock down games. But it never happened. The front office went silent on that front, and fans have been left scratching their heads wondering how they're going to survive a full season with such limited options. Enter Ricky Tiedemann. If that name sounds familiar but you can't quite place it, let me refresh your memory. Just a few years ago, Ricky Tiedemann was the top prospect in the entire Toronto Blue Jays organization. We're not talking about a fringe top 30 guy. We're talking about a consensus top 100 prospect in all of baseball, the kind of player that rival teams were constantly asking about in trade discussions, the kind of talent that made the front office laugh at trade offers because he was considered untouchable. This was a kid with electric stuff, a devastating fastball that could touch 98 miles per hour as a starting pitcher while sitting comfortably at 94 to 96, and a changeup that was graded at 65 on the scouting scale, which in prospect evaluation terms means it was an absolute weapon. Throw in a slider as a third pitch, and you're looking at a future ace type of talent. But then everything fell apart. Injuries ravaged Tiedemann's development in the cruelest possible way. First came Tommy John surgery, the dreaded elbow reconstruction that every pitcher fears because it's basically a year-long death sentence to your career momentum. Then, just when he was supposed to be getting back on track, he needed to be re-evaluated again in 2025 for more issues. The result? 17 months away from competitive baseball. 17 months of rehab, of watching from the sidelines, of wondering if he'd ever fulfill that incredible potential everyone saw in him. But here's where the story gets absolutely fascinating, because Tiedemann himself has opened up about what went wrong, and it's a cautionary tale that every young pitcher should pay attention to. Back in 2024, when he was 21 years old and riding high on all the hype as the organization's top prospect, Tiedemann made a decision that would end up costing him dearly. He packed on a ton of muscle. We're talking serious bulk, the kind of weight gain that transforms your entire physique. And for a minute it probably felt great. He looked jacked, he looked like a superhero, and in spring training 2024 he was absolutely gassing it, throwing with maximum effort, going 150% because he felt like he had something to prove. But the human body doesn't work that way, especially for pitchers. In a recent reflection on his injury journey, Tedman dropped some serious wisdom that every baseball fan needs to hear. He said, "You see a lot of guys who are wiry, lanky, or they're big guys, but you never see a guy who is shredded out there year-round." He's talking about pitchers specifically, and he's absolutely right. If you look at the most durable, successful pitchers in baseball, very few of them look like bodybuilders. There's a reason for that. Pitching requires a very specific kind of athleticism, explosiveness, flexibility, efficiency of movement. When you add too much muscle too quickly, especially if you're a young pitcher still developing your mechanics, things can go sideways in a hurry. Tedman continued, "It's finding out that it's finding the right weight where I feel easy, efficient, athletic, and just staying healthy. That's the biggest thing. I did gain weight before and I got hurt. Now I feel really strong, but it wasn't as quick, as efficient, as smooth as it should have been." Translation? He figured out the hard way that being shredded doesn't equal being effective. His body couldn't handle the stress of throwing 95+ mile-per-hour fastballs with all that extra bulk. Something had to give, and what gave was his elbow, his shoulder, his entire pitching mechanics. The injury spiral began, and it took 17 months of his career away. But now, after all that time, after all that reflection and rehab and soul-searching, Ricky Tedman is back. And he's not just back, he's found that sweet spot between being strong, athletic, and healthy. He's 23 years old, which in baseball terms means he's still got plenty of developmental runway. And more importantly, he's matured both physically and mentally. He understands his body better now. He knows what works and what doesn't. And according to all reports from spring training, he's looking absolutely filthy out there on the mound. Here's where things get really interesting for the Blue Jays. When you look at that starting rotation, it's pretty locked down. Finding a spot for Tedman as a starter is going to be tough barring injuries or massive underperformances. But the bullpen? That's wide open territory, especially for a left-hander with elite stuff. And this is where Tedman could become an absolute game-changer for Toronto. Think about what Tedman brings to the table if he transitions to a relief role. As a starter, he was sitting 94 to 96 miles per hour and touching 98 on his fastball. What happens when you tell a guy like that he only needs to go 1 inning instead of 5 or 6? He can let it rip. He can go maximum effort without worrying about pacing himself for 6 innings of work. We could be talking about a left-handed reliever throwing 98 to 100 miles per hour with late life and movement. Add in that devastating changeup that was already graded as a plus-plus pitch, and you've got a weapon that late-inning left-handed hitters are going to have absolute nightmares about. Imagine this scenario. It's the 8th inning of a crucial game in September. The Blue Jays are clinging to a 1-run lead. The opposing team has their best left-handed hitter coming to the plate with runners in scoring position. Who do you want on the mound? Brandon Little, who got exposed in the second half of last season? Or Ricky Tedman, former top prospect, throwing absolute gas with a changeup that makes hitters look foolish? The answer is obvious. Now, I'm not saying Tedman is going to immediately step into a closer role or become the most dominant reliever in baseball overnight. That would be unrealistic given his injury history and the fact that he hasn't pitched competitively in almost a year and a half. But what I am saying is that the potential is absolutely there. If he can stay healthy, if his stuff plays up in shorter bursts like we expect it will, and if he can harness that incredible talent that made him a top prospect in the first place, the Blue Jays might have stumbled into a solution for their biggest bullpen weakness without even having to make a trade or sign anyone. Current projections have Tedman potentially contributing 30 to 40 innings with an ERA in the high 3s to low 4s. That might not sound spectacular on paper, but consider the context. This is a guy who hasn't pitched in 17 months, who's coming off multiple injuries, and who's still just 23 years old. If he can give you 40 innings of solid left-handed relief work while continuing to develop and regain his form, that's an absolute win. And the beauty of his situation is that he's already on the 40-man roster, which means there's no complicated roster maneuvering required to call him up when the time comes. The blueprint for how this could play out is actually pretty clear if you look at recent Blue Jays history. Remember Zach Pop last year? He was a guy who came up relatively early in the season when the bullpen needed reinforcements, and he ended up becoming a valuable piece. Tedman could follow a similar path. If there's an injury to the bullpen in April or May, which let's be honest, there almost certainly will be, Tedman could get the call from Buffalo. And once he's up, if he's performing well, he stays up. The really exciting part about all of this is watching it unfold in spring training. I know not everyone loves watching spring training games, but this is exactly the kind of storyline that makes it worth tuning in. When you hear Ricky Tiedeman's name announced, when you see him taking the mound against major league hitters, that's appointment viewing. We've already seen clips of him facing Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in workouts, throwing serious heat that had Vlad working a walk but looking impressed. That's the kind of stuff that gets you excited about what this kid can become. And let's not forget the other exciting developments happening in Blue Jays camp right now. Kazuma Okamoto is absolutely destroying baseballs, looking every bit the superstar slugger that dominated in Japan. The videos coming out of Florida are insane. He's taking Cody Povich deep, he's cranking homers off Tyler Rogers, the submarine specialist who's supposed to be nearly unhittable. The media coverage surrounding Okamoto is unreal, with cameras following his every move like he's a Hollywood celebrity. The guy has serious aura, and Blue Jays fans should be absolutely pumped about what he's going to bring to this lineup. As for Anthony Santander, well, we've covered that mess extensively. The latest update confirms what we already suspected. His shoulder felt fine until he started hitting again in January, then the pain came back with a vengeance, leading to the MRI that revealed he needed surgery. It's a brutal situation for everyone involved, and there's no easy answer. Santander himself is basically saying he's going to take his time because he hopes the Blue Jays will be winning enough that they don't desperately need him to rush back. That's either refreshingly honest or devastatingly depressing depending on how you want to interpret it. But back to the main story, back to the potential game-changer hiding in plain sight. Ricky Tiedemann represents hope. Hope that the Blue Jays' bullpen woes can be solved from within. Hope that a former top prospect can overcome devastating injuries and fulfill his potential. Hope that smart player development and a little bit of luck can turn a massive weakness into a surprising strength. This season is going to be a wild ride for Toronto, and Tiedemann might just be the unexpected hero that makes it all work. So what do you think? Can Ricky Tiedemann be the bullpen savior the Blue Jays desperately need? Is this a realistic expectation or just wishful thinking? And are you as excited as I am to watch this story unfold? Drop all your thoughts in the comments below because this is the kind of storyline that deserves serious discussion. If you enjoyed this deep dive into one of the most fascinating under-the-radar stories in Blue Jays camp, smash that like button right now. Hit subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any updates as Tiedemann's comeback continues. And share this video with every Blue Jays fan you know because this is a story everyone needs to be following. The season is almost here, and trust me, you don't want to miss what